We're 1 week into the competitive season of Secrets of Power, and we have limited and constructed PQs to talk about. Some data, some new decks, some old standard decks that we're excited to see, and a lot of fun stuff to talk about tonight. I'm Jordan from the Colorado Cantina Crew, joined tonight by my teammates Kyle and Sharky, and we also have a special guest, Alex Krez from Blue Milk Gaming and the Late Night Gaming competitive team. Welcome in, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Yeah,
doing great.
Good.
Yeah,
had a lot of fun this weekend. Although I'm not sure about bringing in a guest that did better than all of us.
Well, with Alex is often doing really well, so that's good to start. Alex, if you're new, I know you listen to the podcast. One of my great joys is introing and having everybody just say it at the same time. It brings me great happiness. So lots to talk about tonight, like we mentioned. First week, obviously, we had the Seattle data to go through. We had the small tournament in Europe. That was cool. Now it's time for the proverbial rubber to hit the road. We have some data. We have some deck lists. And tonight what we're going to do is we're going to talk about our limited experience in Colorado and in Chicago, right? It was, Alex, or was it outside of Chicago? Inside Chicago. And then we'll take a little detour through our days, our decks, some cards that overperformed, how our thoughts have changed. After that, we'll dive into the meta at large, talk about some of the data that we're known to do, and really kickstart this season of SWU coverage for all of you. So we don't have any comments, concerns, or questions. We'll dive in, and I guess let's just start with Alex, with your PQ. And you guys had 96 players, which is awesome to see.
Yeah.
Full house. And then we ended at 64, which is solid attendance for Denver. Obviously, Chicago, a little bit bigger of a space. But what were your impressions over? I know it's your first competitive limited environment overall.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. Especially at the beginning of the set, I think it was really cool to have the limited PQs. I had to just not even think about Premier and Constructed at all, because I also did not make it to Seattle myself. So yeah, I had a blast preparing for it. My teammate and I, Carlos, we created this like monster video to prepare, like a 2.5 hour like limited tier list. We ranked every single card, and yeah, I think that preparation paid off because I was able to get top 8, and it was awesome.
Yeah, and anytime you could start a season off getting that sort of result, like, it goes a long way. It helps you get a little bit of progress under your belt. It helps you feel like, hey, just one more placement I need to get it, and one more thing from there. So what did you end up playing as you were going through the day?
Yeah, so my sealed pool was very, very good. I'll start with that. I built a Leia Yellow that I don't think could have better 4-drops, because I had 2 Lone Shark and 2 Blue Ace, the rare. And then to top it off, a Captain Rex rare, which carried me through the whole day. Absolutely.
Yeah, so when you get that kind of leader pool that enables you to build the type of deck that you're able to and you want to, I think that's really, really the great first step. For me, the great first step I had was taking on my teammate Kyle in the first round, which we have to stop doing. It's the second tournament in a row that we've played within the first 2 rounds, which is awesome and great, especially as we travel around together and stuff like that. That's, when you go out of town, it's worse. In town, it's not so bad. But I think there's something to be said for being able to build the pool that you, quote unquote, like, want to build with Leia Yellow, but then the skill that comes in when you're playing a pool that doesn't really come up the way you want it. Like Sharky, for instance, I know you played Luthen and you were a winning in from top 8, and another one of our teammates, Steve, who ended up winning the Denver PQ, was on Luthen Green in Swiss for sealed. And I think that shows a different element of the game where, like, sure, in a perfect world, you're running Leia Yellow, you're running Jabba Blue, or Jabba Green, you're running Yularen Red. But what happens when you get thrown the Luthen of it all, or as one of Alex's teammates, Carlos, played Sabe Blue? Like, I'm really impressed by seeing that kind of range in these events, because last set we didn't see that.
Range is a strong word there. I played against 4 different Leias and 2 different Jabbas. So like calling it range is a little bit of a stretch. I had a really good pool that frankly would have been better as Leia Yellow, but I just take issue with the term range in this case.
I hear you on that. I'll battle back, but Kyle, you had a thought?
Yeah, I was just going to say that Luthen was in our top leaders pool,
Sure.
right? He wasn't playing something, he wasn't playing Satine, right?
Right.
So I think you had an acceptable leader. You also had a very good pool, to give away the bag. I got to play the teammate turnstile. So I
Yeah.
started
you
with
did.
Jordan and I ended with Sharky. And in between that, I played Paul and basically our whole team I just got to play, which was super fun. But
It's great.
Yeah.
Fun for the whole family, right?
yeah, but when it comes back to the discussion of the pool, I had a good experience. I had a learning experience, right, in a couple of ways. My pool was bad, right? So I got the leaders. I had Jabba and Leia, which is great, but I had two real big problems. I had no 2-drops in my entire pool, and the only couple that I had were yellow, and I didn't want to play yellow, right? So I kind of ended up building a yellow Slymore deck because I felt like I needed to play it just so that I would have turn 1 plays, which that was the only way I could make a deck with turn 1 plays, but it was a weak deck. So I also built a Leia deck, which I felt was a better deck. But if I was playing Leia, I only had 4 turn 1 plays. So it was a lot of hard mulliganing for turn 1, which was terrifying.
Yeah.
Either way, with both decks, I had no top end. Right. So, I was challenged with trying to win with an underwhelming pool. I did get up to 3-1. I had a chance to go, and then Sharky slapped me down. But, it's difficult. You can get the right leaders, but, if your overall pool is weak, I can outplay some people. I can win a few matches. But in the end, once you get to those top tables, you come against the decks that have the good cards, and you're not overcoming that.
Yeah, I can see that perspective.
And we kind of talked about that last time too, when we were talking about how like the card pool is significantly more important than the leaders, and I think in this case it just kind of showed it, at least in our case.
Well, when we talk about Kyle and I's matchup, I was playing Mon Red. I had a great Leia pool except for 2-drops as well, right? So I ended up trying to make it work in the same way as Kyle did, and in game 1, it really wasn't that close for us. And then that's when you decided, hey, I'm switching to Leia, and this is likely my plan for the rest of the day, playing 1 game of Sly and swapping to Leia. And that takes some recognition as well, right? Like you have that 55 minute period, to make your choices and try to layer some flexibility in. You were able to do that, which is really solid. But as you get, like you said, towards the end of the day, it doesn't necessarily work that way. Like Alex, I called a couple of your games as we got towards the end. And what we saw with your pool is that you were just able to kind of do typical Leia things, right? Like there wasn't any sort of, like it wasn't spicy in any way. You had some good pools, you had some strong pools, but like at the end of the day, you just piloted Leia very well. I don't want to say conservatively, but it from the outside, it didn't seem like there was that much difference going on,
Hey, how do you know? I did splash an out of aspect Nihilus that hit the table. Hit the table like 5-6 times through the 7 rounds of Swiss, and was just my, we have Bo-Katan at home basically.
Yeah.
And no, I think with regards to building the pool, I think one thing I actually did was looking at my sheet. I just like looked at which color aspect pairings had like the most cards, and it kind of like looked at which are the bombs I definitely want. Which for me, I think the number 1 card I saw was Captain Rex. Like that card, I think we rated it as an A tier in our video. I think it's easily an S tier card in limited. It is a rare, so you won't see it too often. But wow, that every time I got him on curve, I don't think that game was not even close. Like it was nuts.
Very, very strong card. And obviously when we're doing these sort of like limited rankings or card rankings overall, we want to try to make it as like applicable as it possibly can to people playing the game. And when you're talking about rares and legendaries, the odds of people getting them are relatively slim. So you try to say, oh yeah, of course the Rex isn't the best card, or isn't the one you're shooting for, in the same way as like Constructed Lightsaber was the best upgrade last set, right? And it's interesting there. But Sharky, back to your point about the range, I guess one thing that I would say differently is that like last set, as you're looking at some of the PQ data, and the data I say with quotation marks because you have to like go and hunt for the deck list and see where people are finishing, but it was really rare to see a top 8 that wasn't almost entirely made out of Snoke, Obi-Wan, and Talzin. Occasionally you would see Ahsoka mixed in, occasionally you would see Kanan mixed in, occasionally you would see Kit mixed in, and maybe that's what Luthen and otherwise will be for this set. But it was just cool to see just that kind of that trend start a little early, I guess.
Yeah, I would say for leaders, looking back on it, like rankings wise and tier wise, I think Leia's clearly top, not by a huge margin. Then I think Jabba, Yularen, that put the tier below that, and then Sly and Mon another tier below that. Because looking back on it, I think Mon, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Playing Mon yourself, because I played her in top 8, which we'll get to, and it just felt like, especially when she's dead, like she's nothing, right? There's
Yeah.
nothing on her card. So yeah, what do you think about playing Mon through the sealed rounds?
Yeah, so like I opened my packs and my first leader I saw was Leia, so I was relatively excited, and my second leader that I saw was Mon, so I was like, okay, like this isn't going to be like the worst thing ever, at least, right? I have a chance here, which is good. And to be honest, I was feeling really, really confident about my pool overall. I had really good units up and down the curve, but as we started getting towards the end and we were verifying, I was like, oh no, I have like 4, 5, 6 2-drops in the colors I want to play. And so in a way, Mon was good because it made me have like a functional deck that I wasn't, you know, just playing 2-drop, and they weren't good 2-drops. That was part of the issue as well. It was the Lost Jedi that I could play. I had an A-Wing, I had a Canyon Skyhopper, and then from there, that was basically it, right? I didn't have good villain leaders. I had good villain 2-drops, so that was a little annoying as well. I had Sith Assassin, Viper Probe Droid, and I had one Clan Ordo, so I was able to play that in Mon, and then I had you know, the Imperial Dark Trooper as well. So like if I had a villain leader, I might have been in an okay spot, but in that sense, Mon made me have a little bit of an okay day, but in the grand scheme of things, I did feel out muscled in a lot of situations, right? Unless I was able to like really, really get aggressive and suit something up to be able to take out Yularen on his first hit, that was a challenge. Being able to survive past the Jabba flip in those matchups, that was a challenge. Being able to race something like Leia, that was a challenge as well. So I do think Mon might be the most pool dependent, but also the most flexible in a weird way, because it unlocks some things that I was able to play the Lone Shark as an ambush unit. Like you have these things that are helpful, but also did it bring me down a path where maybe I should have just slammed Leia and done the Kyle move and hope to get one of my 4 2-drops.
Well, that's what I was going to say. From a strategy perspective, that was my lesson learned, right? It sounds like you and I both had. It's not a pool I would have picked. You know, I was unhappy with my pool, right?
It, you know?
But how do you try to persevere, right?
Yeah.
Well, my first strategy was we're building 2 decks, right? Because I'm not happy with any deck I'm going to be able to build. Sometimes you build a deck and you're like, this is the deck, like Alex's Leia Yellow. Like, it sounds like if I had that same deck, I'd be like, I don't need to look at another deck. We're just going to go with this, right? Yeah. But in my case, my deck was not good, right? You know, I shuffled it up, I played with it, I agonized over it, I was not excited about it. So during the deck building portion, I built 2 decks because I realized quickly my strategy is going to have to be to try to high roll game 1 and then switch decks potentially to try to get that second win, right? Really try to high roll my wins, or depending on what my opponent's doing, try to switch back and forth. I felt like that was my best strategy, and that did happen a lot. I had multiple games where I'd play game 1 with Sly. Actually, in all 3 of my wins, I play game 1 with Sly. No, that's not true. Against you is different. So 2 of them. Play game 1 with Sly, win, switch to Leia, and then get that second win by high rolling with Leia, one of those 2 games. Because I know in one of those 2 rounds, I'm not drawing a turn 1 play because I've only got 4 in the deck. But across 4 draws, you know, 2 turn 1 draws, 2 mulligans, I'm going to get it. And the Leia deck's better, and I'm going to try to close out the win. So it worked to a degree, right? Until I ran into Sharky.
Yeah, right. So there's some learning lessons as well. And I think the only way that you could answer those questions is with sample size, with testing and in competitive testing in these environments where your decisions have stakes attached to them. Like, for instance, Kyle, in our matchup, you agonized for what felt like maybe like 2 minutes about a mulligan. It ended up working out because you had the Lost Jedi, and I opened up Clan Ordo. I swing in, I kill Lost Jedi. That's probably the game, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, he went the other way with mine because he actually agonized over it and kept the hand, and it was because he had a turn 1, but it was not his best one. I think it was also Lost Jedi there, but
see that
I was on
Lost
the play
Jedi just sucks. I'm for Lost Jedi.
If you're on the play, I can buff it right away, and it's not horrible. But on the draw, it just feels just going to end the game.
Yeah.
Like, so, I'd probably rather have the Asp Laborer over Lost Jedi.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely, without question. So with that being said, Alex, you were lucky enough to make top 8, and you got to go through the drafting experience, getting some more points on the board. You're already off to a really hot start after Worlds anyway with your performances last set. So are you thinking about trying to angle for a top 30 spot? You must be somewhere in the general vicinity of like maybe 100, right? Give or take.
I'm actually 30th right now, or like
Oh,
29th. I'll be at 215 points. Yeah, which
nice.
is super awesome. We'll see. I'm honestly more concerned about helping like my teammates get the Worlds
Yeah.
invite, because that's that'd be super awesome to. Cause we have over at late night we have a very large competitive team now, so we got help each other get out there. So but yeah, no, it was a great result. Going back to the PQ, and yeah, like I said, that Leia deck just carried me there with Rex and those 4 drops. So yeah, the draft is awesome. We can get into that next for sure.
Yeah. So you ended up playing, was it Mon Blue? Mon Red with some blue spiced in. Yeah, that was what the thought was, because I was commentating over the draft, and when we were kind of unsure if you were going to go Leia at first. Yeah, I think you started with like a Jade Squadron, the 6/6 Sentinel, which is great. I think that was maybe like your second pick or something like that. You had a Chandrillin, which obviously could hit in both areas, and then Jabba was also in play. So how did that decision tree happen for you? Like, when did you try to make that choice?
Yeah, so my leaders, especially pack 1, were amazing. Or sorry, pick 1, I should say. So I had between you Lauren and Java, and also C3PO, which of course is not in that same discussion. And so I picked the Java. And looking back on it on the draft, I kind of wish I stayed a little more flexible during pack 1, because pick 1 was a low bot, which I felt great about because it's just a great card and really any deck, especially a Java though. Speaking of that leader, and so after that, I picked 2 of pack 1. I took Moral Authority, and I think that's the point where I kind of like locked in, when I wish, looking back on it, that I'd stayed a little more flexible. For example, I could have actually taken Cruel Commandos instead of that Moral Authority, and maybe kind of locked into Jabba, but I would have been more comfortable Jabba early on than Mon, just because I think he's, like I said before, the better leader. And yeah, I think it's looking back on it, that's the biggest change I wish I made, was just being more flexible that pack 1.
Yeah.
Who were to your left and right when you were making that choice of whether to go the Mon direction versus the Jabba direction? Did you have villainy or suspect villainy or heroism to the left and right of you, or is it too early to tell?
Left, we got to see everyone's leaders, so I got to see all that. There was only like 1 other Jabba, or maybe 2 in the whole field. That's one of the reason why I think going with Jabba was the right call. But left to me was local buddy of mine, Scott, or Spags, who had the worst leader pool of any draft I've seen. It was like C3PO, Sabe, and like another like yellow hero, or what was the other leader? Either way, it was like 3 yellow leaders. It was rough. To the right of me on the other guy on the stream was I think had a couple options like Lauren. So I think that's part of the reason I also wanted to go hero. I will say though, going through the draft again, like once I got later in the draft, I think going green hero was absolutely the right call. I think Jordan, you called out how on this over the commentating that some of these great green hero cards got to me real late, like the Mon Mothma,
Yeah.
Rare, the Renowned Dignitaries. So while I don't regret in the end going green hero and green red mon, I wish in the beginning I'd been a little more flexible, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think as I was watching, I thought that Moral Authority pick and the Cruel Commandos was really like the turning point with you deciding what was going on. Obviously, Moral Authority you can play for 5. It's not terrible, but it's not awesome. It has some tempo and is some remove if you don't have it. But I do think when you're getting to these high levels and when you're being able to build your perfect pool, maybe Mon's ability is even further minimized. I think there's 2 arguments, right? One is that in a draft you could cherry pick the best officials from every color and you could guarantee that you have them, like blah blah blah. I think the other perspective is that you're just drafting the best cards anyway, and then other leaders have abilities that dramatically impact the game when they're not, even when they're not just deployed, right? Because Mon's ability is good when she's deployed. We could all agree there. It's solid, I think that's an argument to be had if Mon is worse in draft. I think the common belief, like your first layer thought process would be, oh no, she's great in draft because of XY, but I'm not sure that's true.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'll just, my disclaimers is this is like my 4th draft for SWU ever. So that's something that's just is a good learning for me to like just get to locals more and draft more, because it's a whole skill set that everyone's going to have to learn if they want to compete at Worlds, right? I think we don't know the full details yet, but we know draft and limited will be a part of it. So
We talked about that in this must have been several pods ago, talking about when they announced that there was going to be limited as part of Worlds. I kind of put I really hope that this draws people back to limited formats, especially at my local game stores, right? More interest, that sort of thing. And just last week, my local game store that usually gets like 4 or 5 people, we had enough for 2 pools to draft. It was awesome. All these people showed up. I mean, the limited PQ here, I'm just hoping that continues. From an overall perspective, I'd like to hear guys' thoughts, Sharky and team, on just kind of, what were your overall lessons learned, or maybe not lessons learned, but, outtakes from this limited tournament now that we've had one here locally. I know for myself, from a leader perspective, it's who we thought they were, at least at the top tables. We already discussed Leia, that sort of thing. But the second one is that it's such a long event, right? Like between having to write down the decks and verify the decks and build the decks and then play, and then especially if you do well and you make it to the top 8, you get to do that whole process again. It makes for a very long day. We were talking in the Discord about maybe we shouldn't have a lunch break on those days. People need to pack food. You guys, Alex, you had to go through the entire length of the day. Or do you have any thoughts on how they might speed that up?
It's a tough challenge. It's a huge logistical problem, right? I think at past times they've run a lot of these events. They actually had a limited PQ last set that I wasn't able to make it to. I obviously was very fortunate to have such a good deck that I got to ID the last round and go get some food. So I'm a little bit insulated from that. We also had to have break before top 8. But yeah, I'm really curious about like the regional here in Milwaukee. Shout out to that. I'm really excited for that. But how they're going to handle like this large scale limited play. I know they've already done it now a couple times, but I'm just curious to see it firsthand myself.
I don't know that there's a logistical way to really speed it up. We got, I would say, lucky that we had exactly 64 at ours, so we had 6 rounds. And while I had fun at the event, I don't think I would do more than 1 limited PQ in a set right now. Like it's a lot. It's my own variety desires are already met for what leaders I've gotten to play against. Like I've seen the same one 4 times and the other one 2. And while I'm unhappy to have missed top 8, like physically I would have been pretty worn down by the end of it there. So like it was a fun time, but I don't know that there's really a good way to speed it up without really starting super early or cutting out a lunch break, or even the last, like there was a small break after round 6 before the top 8 started, but like they went pretty quick right into it too. And even then, I don't think they even, when did Steve post that he finished? It was like 10:30, I think. So that is a long day when we started around 9.
Yeah.
Or we got there at 9.
So I have a couple thoughts. One is that there's no doubt that it's long, right? Like there's no other way to describe it. We've told the story before on the pod, but when Kyle and I went to Philly, we were hanging with my friend Alex and his buddy Randy, who don't play competitive SWU, who like haven't been to PQs, haven't been to showdowns, haven't been to 3-round weeklies. That was their first event ever, right? And at the end, like they were zonked, like they were like, is it always this tiring? No, it's like you literally played in like the longest event ever, because it was like a huge sector with so many people. It went to time every round. So there's a couple things, and I think they contradict each other a little bit, which is part of the issue. And Kyle, what you mentioned about bringing people back to the stores and stuff like that, I think is really important, but also important to note the differences in approach to a casual event for limited or draft and a competitive mindset, and how they should be ran differently, and how the vibe overall, with lack of a better term, like they are different, right? Like they need to be different. So that's part of it, right? Because it's like, oh, is limited getting popular because you get because we have these new stakes involved, or is limited getting popular good for getting new players into the game? I'm not sure if both of those things could be true.
Yeah, so I do have one idea just coming from a previous game that I had played. I don't know if SWU will ever do this or not, but a game that I played previously for limited events, what they would do is there would be, the judges or the trusted group. They would open all the packs beforehand. They would stamp all the cards, and they would already list them out on a list for you, right? So there's no me opening packs, writing it down. There's no my opponent doing a verification step, none of that. You show up and they've all already been opened. They've already been stamped. They've all already been written down. And then they've been put in a box and randomized, and you're just handed a random pool that's already been authenticated, right? And from there, you build your deck and you go. And that did save a lot of time.
Yeah.
Those events were even larger than these events. So like you'd be talking multi-day to even be able to complete it. So that certainly saved a lot of time. I could see them doing that at least for sealed.
Cash
Obviously
money,
for
though.
draft, that's not going to work.
Like,
yeah, you got to
so
pay
you have
somebody
to pay
to do
people
that, right?
to do that.
Yeah, right. And the cost of labor is not so cheap as we're talking about, which is good, right?
Unless they could print something, like if they could print a sealed run where they like print randomized cards that come sealed in a box and it's just already a randomized sealed pool.
Yeah,
you verify it wasn't an error pack or something.
Yeah, I think there's challenges for all those things. I've played a lot of like online sealed for Lord of the Rings, the old CCG from Decipher, and they had a great system, and they still have a great system where it's like you get to pick a starter deck, and then you get to pick your packs, right? So like everybody has the base of starter decks, and then you get like 3 packs. So all of a sudden, the work that would have to be done in theory, and I'm not saying pick a spotlight deck, etc. I'm just saying in general there are options to make it so your cards are a little bit more standardized at the base, and then maybe you have 42 cards or however many cards 3 packs are to deal with as opposed to 6. And spitballing and brainstorming through these things are important, but also, Alex, like with how long your event was, how do you not have a lunch break for something? Like, it's such a long day and it does go to time, and it's a challenge when you have 96 some odd people. I think it's almost easier when you have 500 because you're like, we can't do a lunch round because if we do, we'll be here until 2 a.m.
Yeah, no, it's something that I think is often overlooked, is like the non-playing aspects of competing in a tournament. Like, it's something that actually I want to cover in a video myself. Because, for example, I have a specific routine about how to get detilted if I get too on tilt, or I have to force myself to really eat because I have no appetite during the day. So I have to make myself, I go into the bathroom between rounds. I make sure I'll just force myself to take 2 bites of a protein bar, and like these little things that it really add up. Because like, again, it's a long day. Like y'all were saying, starts at like 9:10. Mine also went to 10:30 as well. And yeah, I'm just glad that I got to ride in the car on the way home. I didn't have to drive, thankfully. So, but yeah, I think it's part of the game, and I think it's something that because it's easy to look back on mistakes and be like, oh, what was I thinking? And fatigue is so hard to quantify, right? So
That's definitely true. And I think another thing like we have our next PQ coming up in like Pueblo. It's like it's an hour and a half for me. It's like 2.5 hours from Kyle. I'm not looking forward to that. That's our local PQ, quote unquote, but it's a little bit of a hike. All right. So any final notes on the limited experience before we dive into the first week of constructed data?
I mean, I'm happy we got one. I hope we continue to get a limited and a standard in Colorado, right? I want to have both. I also like the division it gives me. I didn't really think about, regular deck building and, leading up to this. And now I get to put limited in the rear view, not think about that for a little while, and start focused on what decks am I going to play? And we'll talk about some that are already doing well.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point.
That too, yeah.
That's a great point, because for the past couple sets, going back towards JTL, we've been complaining about like the doldrums of the set the last couple weeks, and maybe this little division helps us go a long way. Okay, week 1 here in Star Wars Unlimited, and some fun results. So we're going to dive through the data, talk about our standard top 8s, and then go through some lists that we found interesting. And kind of just to tie things off, you see a lot of kind of what you would expect. The talk of the town since Beatle has been Anakin, Data Vault, and Han 1 Green. And then I guess what you saw in response to that was this new wave of let's go bigger mid-range, as Yoda really came to a little bit more popularity from the KTOD guys. And otherwise, obviously, T85 Challenge over across the pond has been championing that general build forever, so would be remiss not to give him his just due as we get started. But Alex, since you are the guest, let's start with you. What's your overall takeaway of week 1?
Yeah, I'm not too surprised by anything here. I think, I think it's pretty much what I expected going after Beatle. We got a couple surprise fun decks, which you always have, especially the first week of the planetary qualifiers. I think I'm really curious to see where it goes from here, because I don't think this is necessarily indicative of like the how the meta is going to shake out, like once it settles, once the dust settles a little bit. But I think we'll see a little bit of like a cyclical, kind of rock paper scissors format as like we can try to get counters to these blue-green piles and Yoda decks, and then the counters to the counter, and so on and so forth, right? So, but yeah, I think it's a cool result so far. I'm excited by this meta.
Yeah, a lot of heroism, a lot of green heroism specifically.
Look at that circle. Most of that 2/3 of the first bit of the circle, if you take out the unknown, is green.
And in
Almost
life,
all of it is
in
green,
Life
so
Sharky, you
fine.
could never take out the unknown. But I think we know that like a couple of these are Anakin. There's some data entry issues with melee, but couple.
I
of
just
these
mean look
are
how much green
Anakin.
there is.
Yeah,
It's insane.
and then if you really like, if you look at it, right? So green heroism for Anakin and Han. Unknown, we know at least one of these 8 are green heroism. These are top 8 results. Sabine Wren, the OG green heroism, right? Then Yoda Data Vault at green heroism. And then you also had Yoda Force green heroism. And more Yoda, more Han. You know, so
There's a few green blue villainy scattered in there, or green red, but like it's all green.
Yeah, it would be really cool if we could like sort the pie chart by aspect to kind of see how things are going. I think actually we can do that. Right?
Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah. So so command 10%. Wow, that's actually really interesting.
That doesn't match what we were just looking at, but
is this data? Is this not like reconciling properly?
No, that's total. That's the problem. Previously you were looking at top 8. Oh no, I guess
it's top 8. It's still top 8. Yeah. So thanks for throwing me under the bus, Kyle. But no. So we must have some data issues here because clearly we've been saying command is that. So I'll drop a line in the Swoobase Discord. And by the way, big shout out to Swoobase. Like this tool is so amazing, and Mito does a great job making these updates and any feature requests. The Discord's a great place to be if you guys are interested. So I'll go back to leaders and base and go through it a little bit. And I guess the thing that I'll say here is that the main thing that stands out to me is that going into this set, there was one blue-green heroism leader, a package that everyone was talking about, that everyone was excited about. That was Rey Data Vault. And in the past few weeks, we kind of see her not even factor into the conversation, which is really interesting. And I think that's just how ephemeral this sort of meta and market change could be in anything that you talk about, right? And now we see it's the Big Brother version, right?
Well, given the rise of Anakin, I'm not shocked by that. Yeah,
that's exactly what I was gonna say. It makes perfect sense, right?
Yeah.
Like, that deck gets torched by Anakin Data Vault with the trade ups, right? And so the answer was, okay, well, we'll go Yoda and we'll come over the top of you by ramping, right?
Yep.
So I think it was an excellent meta call by Wu and others who played it. They said Anakin is going to be the cup of tea. It's going to be whatever is the new hotness that people want to play. How do I come over the top of that and just beat that deck? And there's 2 ways to target it from what we've seen. That's trying it with the Yoda Data Vault. Now I'd say that requires the reps. I think if you just pick up Yoda Data Vault, you'll get crushed by Anakin Data Vault. But once you've learned the nuance, you've learned the lines, I think it is potentially favored. The other way to attack an Anakin Data Vault is with bigger space attacks, right? They have ways to kill ships up to 4 butt with open fire and with their Jedi Starfighter and that sort of thing. But if you start hitting them with like haulers and bigger ships, especially if you ramp with those bigger ships or if you go fast, I think that's probably the way to attack that deck. So to Alex's point, what's going to be the turnaround here, right? If Anakin continues to do well, how do we target Anakin? If Han Green continues to do well, how do we target Han Green? So, I think that'll be the most interesting part. Do we start to see some more of this bigger blue-green villain come over the top of the mid-range piles? Like we saw Palpatine 1, maybe Kira comes back, some of these things, or, do we start to see maybe some hand hate strategies? It'll be interesting to see how it goes.
I think the Anakin deck is significantly easier to target than the Han Green deck is. Like the Han Green deck, I think is going to be resilient throughout the set. Anakin will drop off, I think, give it 2 weeks. I don't want to say exactly when, but I could see that one becoming the main target. And frankly, I know people who are building decks to target Anakin already and have succeeded in beating Anakins. And I think that will start to filter out. I don't know that there's a good answer to Han right now. There's a lot of good cards that he's gotten and that he can play early. Sorry, go ahead.
So no, I think there's arguments to be had there for both sides. So obviously this is total representation. This unknown pile is unknown to us, but hopefully that gets resolved a little bit as the days go by. Champion wise, we have 2 Anakins, 2 Hans, 2 Quinlins, 2 Yodas. The Yoda's actually like more like I think 4, right? Because we had more like 3 because there was a Yoda Force as well, I believe. But what I would say is that I think Anakin's really good. I think that Anakin might actually be in a similar position Han 1 green, to kind of withstand some of the higher control tilt that the meta is going to bring. Because I think, for instance, like while Yoda is like the big brother of Anakin and really could put some beating down there, I do think that the aggression package mixed with heroism really does help in those hard control matchups more, and even on the soft control side. Obviously, you have the recursion that we've talked about time and time again, really common in command, but we also have stuff like Karis and other things that we have in aggression to kind of push things there. And I think that right now, what's interesting to me is that I feel like a lot of the adjustment is going to be skewed towards that big mid-range pile defense with Yoda, with Anakin, and otherwise leading people towards that hard control, soft control route that Kyle mentioned, where Han 1 is less in the spotlight. Han 1 green is less in the spotlight, which I find to be a good spot to be in right now with how open things are. I don't think this is the jump to light speed meta of old, where the card pool is a little more narrow and it's just so clear that Django could beat everything. I think here you don't want to be the one who's targeted right now. That's just my take, though.
Yeah, no, I agree. You know, as a Han 2 blue player, I'm actually happy where Han 2 blue's at right now, with the caveat that I haven't really tested the Anakin matchup enough. But like, I was very unhappy with the Worlds meta, where it was the target on his back, and as everyone was playing it, and I had 3 mirrors in day 2, for example. So yeah, I think speaking of the meta, like Han 2 blue, my assumption is the only reason it wasn't played more is because it just didn't get as many new toys as some of the other decks. I think it's still very, very great deck in my early testing with it, because a lot of these, we're talking about all green hero being pushed, especially with that new card Queen Amidala. Well, what's the best answer to Queen Amidala? Our good old boy Anakin Skywalker with the -3/-3 effects. So I'm very still high in Hantu blue, and on top of that, I'll say the last thing I'll add is that Tarkatown's on the decline, right? I think Cad Bane, we'll see, did not do well at all.
Yeah.
We can see Quinlan's coming up a little bit more, but still not, as popular as he was before with Force Throw. So that's kind of where I'm obviously biased towards Hantu Blue, but I'm liking it right now.
Yeah, and obviously Cad has a pretty tough matchup into these huge mid-range hero piles. I think it's really the command side of thing that provides some issues.
It's absolutely the command side of things, and mostly like of the two of them. So I can tune Cad to beat Anakin. I'm pretty consistently beating Anakin. It's Han green, and when I'm tuned to Anakin, it's Sabine, it's Kira, and Yoda that will all just give me all kinds of issues with it. Queen Amidala and Kelleran Beck in the same deck is not a good recipe for someone who's trying to control the board.
Yeah,
so.
I think it honestly is as simple as that.
It is,
right?
100%.
Alex, to your point, I have seen some Hantu blue non-force versions floating around, which is pretty interesting. Just getting back to that standard good stuff build, getting the village vectors back in, being able to run Karis, still having a lot of the force units, obviously, with just good cards in general, but good leaders, and we'll see if they kind of like limp into the finish line of rotation or what. I know Sharky, I could hear the sadness and regret in your voice about Cad not being in a realistic spot, right? And I think that when we're in this sort of 50-50 meta, we have to be realistic about what we're playing, because like, sure, we might be able to sit down and say, I'm gonna dodge this matchup, and this matchup, but you're not gonna dodge all of them. Like you could dodge one, but you're not going to dodge 3.
Especially in the top 8 if you get there.
Last overall percentage-based thing that I found interesting is that Piet is still really well represented. It's not performing that well. Boba is really nowhere to be seen. And that has kind of, stayed constant since Beatle. I'm still playing a little bit of Boba and finding really good success with it. I wonder how much of the Boba conversation has to do with like the popular notion that it's a brain dead stupid deck, or it's this, it's that. But yeah, I mean, I haven't been playing. It's not my main focus of attention, but like I played well with it at Beatle. Like
how does it do into Anakin? Like I think Anakin would be the one that gives it more trouble than the rest.
Yeah, it has some problems with like a suited up Anakin that's pushing really hard, but I think, again, it just really depends on if they're being able to draw the Jedi Starfighter, which is really, really a big thing for a lot of their matchups, whether it's Boba, Piet, any Han build, being able to fight in space starts early in that deck.
That makes sense.
Any notes percentage wise before we pop into some unusual things? Like, I want to talk about this Phasma list. There's a couple other decks that are top of mind. Cool.
I'm ready to talk about the Phasma list because that's the one I want to talk about.
Before we do that, real quick, I want to hit on our results for the Denver PQ, just because we want to give our teammates some credit and we forgot to do it before we moved on. So Steve C won his first PQ, been crushing it, did great at Galactics, a lot of runner-ups, a lot of top 8s, a lot of bubbles, and no runner-ups, excuse me, had a couple top 4s, so that was huge. Maya, Jeremiah, man, he is on fire right now, right? I don't think we've had a PQ locally in the past 18 months that he hasn't topped in a win or runnered up. Right.
I think Makai's in the same spot.
Right.
Don't we just call him the bridesmaid now? I mean, it's a lot of second places.
It's good though. And you know what else?
But he won one.
He was sporting that beautiful Hawaiian shirt, Colorado Cantina Crew style that I usually will joke and say I'll put the link in the description, but you don't want it. It's not. It's nice
awesome. Come on.
It's not a nice looking shirt, but yeah. Shout out to them and shout out to then Paul making top 4. Sir Toast a lot. Another great run from him. And then our newest teammate Dan making his first top 8, top 4 as well. So really good stuff all around. I think we had 4 out of 8 in the top 8, 3 out of 4 in the top 4, and then the finalists. So love to see that on the local side, even if the 3 of us, Kyle, myself, and Sharky, didn't do well. Alex is raising the average. For
come on, I was 1 hit point from top 8.
Well, exactly. But if you got top 8, I would have updated our canteen and everything.
All I heard was not top 8.
Yeah. All right.
You just can't say we didn't do well. Come on,
as well. Sure. I apologize. I didn't mean it. All right. So let's talk about some cool decks. Phasma is on everyone's mind, and I think rightfully so. Right. I watched the video from Sealy on SW, which I assume is Star Wars. He described it. I saw some of the gameplay. Great production by OP over in the UK. They always put on a great stream, but I've been playing this deck. I'm about probably 30 games in. I played about 15 yesterday, 15 today. Really fun, really fast, a little bit more flexible than I first imagined. Really weak to control in a lot of ways. But man, it's great to see a big PQ being taken down by something a little bit on the on the periphery.
I'm a big fan of this one. I've been wanting to use Phasma since I opened that showcase in JTL, and I've been messing around with this one. I've got a few tweaks I made that actually I think are a little better into control. I wouldn't say it's good yet, but it at least has a fighting chance against it. And this one will surprise people how quick it can go. It's almost like unassuming because you're chipping in small bits of damage followed by like the Knight of Ren chipping in 4, followed by, Phasma chipping in 1 here and there. It just keeps hitting you, and it doesn't stop hitting you.
Yeah, I played against it this morning with a friend of mine, and I was surprised how actually great the FN Trooper Core is.
Yep.
It's kind of an unassuming card, like a 5-cost 4/5 gives an XP. Like, it seems great, but it's in this deck very strong with the tempo it provides. Like, and it's that even that one experience going from a 4/6 to a 5/7 makes that so much harder to remove. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And it's good against like the pilot. Like I see it stacking up against some of the later deployed pilot leaders. That makes the overwhelming barrage a heck of a lot more dangerous from Phasma when they try to flip into it too.
Yeah.
That's
Kyle, any initial thoughts?
Busted card, right? It's one of the best cards.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't played it at all yet, but I would say that it fills the void of what is going to be the aggro deck. Sorry, ground-based aggro deck, right? I think we've got several viable space-based aggro decks, but people are prepared for those in different ways, right? What's going to be the ground-based aggro? I mean, Sabine's always there, right? It still exists. We saw it make some top 8s, but it's not dominant, right? Is there a creative way to aggro people on the ground? And maybe this is it, right? I certainly want to give it a try. I just haven't had the opportunity yet.
Yeah, I mean, to Cherky's points about like the you'd be surprised of it all. I am people, right? I am the surprised one here because her ability stacks up whether it's flipped or otherwise, right? It's the same Sabine rule where you're not going to lose initiative by pinging, but like other than that, like you could get damage. And I think what's really interesting is that this deck by its nature is really good when you're on the play, and then when you're on the draw, your deficiencies get a little bit masked by Phasma's ability because you're actually able to use it more often. I found that you have quite a bit of OB targets. You have quite a bit of FN Trooper targets, right? Obviously, Phasma is your main one, the leader, but like getting a Knights of Ren to a 5/5 is pretty solid as well. And then the real swing here, I think, is when you get to be in that Phasma, Kylo, Maul, Raider area, whether you're ambushing them in or otherwise, you're just like doing these stacked effects that are pretty consistent. Like from the outside, you might think that they look like they're not consistent, but based on like the redundancy, they are consistent. Like you're able to get the guard sentinel turned on because of these synergies. You're able to timely in a Phasma and double buff to trade up or otherwise. A lot of really cool things. And obviously it's 1 week, right? Everybody gets super pumped about it. I'm pumped about it. I'm not even like an off meta guy, and I was pumped to see it. But
I'm playing this weekend.
Yeah,
so.
it will be interesting to see if this could stand the test of time. I've played it against Boba and Piet pretty often, and like it's faster than Boba, which is surprising to say. Even if you get toppled, you're usually already at like 20 damage on their base, which is really fun. But overall, I'm excited to play the deck more. This is one where I'm like kind of interested to see if it survives. I've been working on a new video series as we get into the holiday season where I pick like 2 or 3 decks a week, dive into them, play them, and then do a little blurb on them video wise. This is going to be one of them for this week. I really want to see if it's just stone cold dead into control, because I predict that that rise of blue-green villain or otherwise to start coming in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, I'm not going to tiptoe around it like you did. I'll just answer your question now. The answer is no. This deck spiked the tournament. It got its win. It's not happening.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's have a little wager sesh. Kyle could be wrong. I'm on the fence. I'll come off the fence after you guys vote. Alex, what's your? Will this win a PQ or top again? Will it top 8? Maybe. Will it win a PQ? Maybe. What's the verdict here?
I'm with Kyle. I think this is this example of like a phenomenal player playing something off meta to give the surprise factor. Because at game 1, like no one's gonna know what to expect. Maybe not nothing what to expect, but just like the surprise factor is a thing in TCGs.
Yeah.
And so I think, well, this is a really strong deck with a lot of great cards. I don't see this being the getting a bigger share of that pie chart, in the next coming weeks.
So what's the answer? Win? Yes or no? Top 8? Yes or no?
No.
Okay. Sharky?
No and no.
I think it top 8s. I don't know if it wins again. I do think it is actually solid enough to survive and be around on the fringes. I don't think it's ever going to be one of the targeted decks. I don't think it's ever going to be good enough to be in the conversation of things you tech against. But I do think it is solid enough, even as it is, to fight into a meta that's basically you have everybody else fighting each other, and it just kind of beats up on whatever it can find. Right? Like if everyone else is concentrated on everybody else, it's going to find wins, and it can probably sneak into a top 8. Do I think it wins a PQ again? I kind of hope it does, but I think that's more hope than it is realistic. So.
Kyle, the top 8? I know you said no on the win, but are we getting the top 8?
No. This is the last we see of this deck.
Okay.
Kyle's answer is always no. Come on.
I think that we will get at least a top 8, and I think we might get a win, and you know why? I'll tell you why. I think it's because this type of deck draws a certain type of person. They're like, oh yeah, screw the establishment, I hate meta, like anarchy, right? And those types of players I think might be, and this is a little bit of fan fiction, but they'll be in like a small PQ in like Anchorage or somewhere in Taiwan or something, and I think that will be the ticket. Phasma's also cool. I think a lot of people like Phasma, so I think that'll draw. I think it's going to be played more than it should be, though. And obviously, I'm being a little facetious here. If I had to put my money on it, I would say no top 8, no win, but I think its rise in popularity will skyrocket in the next 2 weeks.
Well said.
Cool. Next deck that we should talk about, let's do it with this one. This is one that I picked. This was Milkman Ryan, Sabe Targentown. Couple Sabes that I've been interested in this past couple weeks. Man, it's a fast aggro deck. I think you have a great mix of some ground pressure, but primarily a space attack here. A lot of buffs, a lot of ability to go wide. Alex, I know Loopy mentioned that you guys had been plugging away on some Sabe stuff. How have you felt overall about Sabe Tarkentown?
Yeah, I think I don't know if I have enough like experience to definitively say like which Sabe version I like most between Tarkentown, Red 30, or even Mono Yellow. But I think this is a great deck. I'm looking at there's just some really great cards in here. There's not a ton of red, which I think is good for running something like Faith in Your Friends, which means that 5 aspect disclose.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think Sabe is one of those leaders that's um, definitely like post rotation, one of those like top leaders, I think. But even now, pre rotation obviously can still do well, and taking cards from their hand when she flips is always very, very strong. So I like the deck. I'm gonna have to give it a spin more myself.
Kyle, Sharky?
Yeah, there's a couple of things I like about this deck. I like aggro decks. I think that's cool. One of the things that I was looking at when I saw this deck was, well, what are you targeting? I always try to ask myself, if you're playing this deck, what is it that you're going after?
Yeah.
We knew what part of the meta was going to be, and part of the meta was going to be Han 1 green, right? So the way we used to attack Han 1 green was force throw. It was hand disruption, right? They're already playing with their hand as a resource. They're going to be low on resources as they're using that to ramp, right? So if you could damage their hand as they got low, perhaps that's a way to attack it. So, this deck potentially could do that. It looks like a lot of the hand disruptions in the sideboard, but at least it's an option. They can try to race them. When you are aggro against Han, one of the things that could blow you out is like an early Falcon or something like that, just tearing you up in space. But you have Tarkentown to protect yourself, right? So maybe you can try to race them. The other part about it that I realized is with the rise of Yoda, Sabe might be particularly interesting, not only from an aggro perspective, but to disrupt the Yoda ability. If they're trying to put cards on the top of their deck to set things up, you just say, nope, and rip it away, right? So, when we were first looking at this set, Sabe was one of the ones that stuck out to me right away as particularly interesting. It's just one that I kind of wanted to see if it could be solved by the community at large while I was focused on limited play. So this is the one of the first ones, right?
Yeah, so there's also a yellow one that popped up that I want to talk about, but I think that this deck is really interesting, but primarily for a post-rotation world. I think with Han existing, this sort of small space deck could be a little bit of a challenge. I think if I was going to take this for a run, I would try to beef up my ground presence a little bit earlier on, and then maybe have, the addition of like a light maker or blue ace or something along those lines to be a little bit beefier up there in space. But I do think that Sabe is a really interesting leader. And to your point about Yoda, I was playing Yoda Tarkentown, like the Lego Pizza Bothan version a couple weeks ago at locals against a Sabe Yellow, our teammate Zach. And it was really sketchy, right? Like there were lines where I could win by putting Ray on top of my deck, and I just knew that the second I put it up, it's getting taken away. There were times where Sabe was deployed where I wanted to keep Luke in my hand, but I can't. And especially the flip turn in general lines up with when you're trying to "you're my only hope." Usually, like when you're trying to cheat out something on 5, like a Luke or a Rex or otherwise, right? And in that time, not only could you get the top of deck thing messed with you, but you could get the hand thing messed with you. So it's like this really weird action sequencing dilemma that you have to solve out. And I think what you end up just having to be really conservative because you can't put yourself in the position to be like that massively punished. But yeah, I think it's really interesting, really fun, and I'm interested to see if this kind of deck can survive. Personally, though, I'm more interested in the Sabe Yellow deck, and this is going to be another deck that I try to test out in that video series that I mentioned. But I think that this deck has a little bit more of the annoying factor. This is from Farm Boy up in Connecticut. He got a top 4 placement. Our teammate Travis was there as well. That was the PQ where Stevie from KTOD was a runner-up, but really, really strong field. Farm Boy is like very famous for running Tarkin Blue and just dominating, so I've always found his decks pretty interesting. I've had a lot of fun playing this. It's a kind of a mix mash of cards that haven't seen a lot of play, whether it's the 2/3 Bravo Squadron Fighter or the Ascension Cable, but some really cool and interesting stuff here. Tala is actually not so bad. It's really fast and it's really annoying is how I would categorize it.
I like the yellow one a lot better because the Tarkentown one looked like Quinlan Light to me, and I think my first question is why not Quinlan?
Sure.
Whereas this one actually seems to separate itself a little bit more in it has a reason for me to play this over the other version, and nothing to take away from the Tarkentown version, but this one looks really interesting to me, and I kind of like you point out the cards I was looking at, like that's actually really kind of a cool bunch of interactions that they have there, and it can kind of attack the hand without it being like, hey, I'm only attacking your hand and you're just going to win eventually anyway. This one actually seems like it has a game plan. Like Cunning is just a great card for doing that. On top of being able to buff and discard. Then Sabe does it, and then like you can stack a bunch of those effects together without really losing a lot of tempo. And I'm interested to see how this one plays out.
Yeah, what we talked about with the other Sabe, again, he probably saw Han Green coming, but this one's got several cards that attack the current meta that makes sense, right? So against a Han, we're playing main deck Hand Hate, right? And then we are also running a card that's particularly well positioned against Anakin with the Stolen AT Hauler main deck, right? Anakin can trade up with the Jedi Starfighter into things that have 4-butt. It can open fire things with 4-butt. A Hauler's a problem, right? And that's gonna be a good way to get after some of those decks. So I agree with you guys. If I was gonna play one of these two decks in a tournament, it would definitely be the double yellow version because you get to play broken things like Cunning.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly no Han 1 yellow with DJ by any means, but I do think WL still got some like Faith in Your Friends, like I mentioned before, is still a great card, and you almost always get to proc it in this, get the effect off in this deck. So yeah, I like this. Like I said, Carlos on my team has been tinkering with both versions of Sabe, and I think he himself leans towards Sabe yellow a little bit, but yeah, no, I think we'll see if this one in particular, if it lives post rotation, if there's no Cunning card reprinted. But like I said, like y'all said, I also like the deck. And like I said, I think Tala actually, a card that wasn't super high on in general. I can see how this particular deck, like with Sabe, is great with that given hidden to other units so that you can get Sabe's ability off the following turn.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's also, I found that you're just pushing so much damage early that sometimes all you need is to protect a unit for a turn to be able to swing in for 3 or something. Also, for me in my early testing, like I said, I'm about 20 games in, give or take. The Stolen Starpath unit is so good.
I love that card.
Right? Like, I was playing a best of 3 against one of my buddies on Yoda Data Vault, and man, I just kept on being able to create, and I had 2 Stolen Star Paths out on the board at one time. So it just really became a challenge to keep up with, and really interested to see how this deck kind of shapes up. I
got that card in our PQ this weekend. I loved it.
Very good. Yeah, you really are weak to particular things, but I guess the theory is that you could take that OB out. You could take these things away either from the top of the deck or your hand, and it's been effective, and it's been fun as well. So that's it for me. Let's go to another one here, and this is Yoda Data Vault. This is Woo's list. He took down the New Jersey PQ. You can find the stream at McClunky's channel. But overall, this deck's probably going to see a ton more popularity, like we mentioned, as we were breaking down the meta overall. Rightfully so, as it's a green-blue pile of absolutely excellent cards. I think Bo-Katan really adds a new element here that didn't exist previously, and I'm happy to see it. I love Yoda. I think he's a fun leader to play and adds some complexity to the game as you're getting to these later deploy leaders.
Yeah, I mean, I know myself, I'm too slow a player to play this kind of deck. Like, I'll go to time way too much, so I love it. But yeah, I think in particular, I'm scared to play against this deck when they have a turn 1 Gonk droid and they have initiative. Like, that just seems...
It's funny that you mentioned that, because we were talking about the Gonk on our Discord tonight, Kyle, right? I saw you smirk about it too.
Yeah, well, okay, so I dipped my toe into Leia, and this is the natural progression up from Leia, which is where the meta is going. So this is the deck I've been playing a little bit, right? I also find that what Woo's playing, we seem to have similar play styles, when it goes back to Kira and this sort of thing. So I find we navigate towards the same ideas, the same decks. So when he comes out with something, I tend to look. Anyway, with this deck, the Gonk droid, my initial thought was, is the Gonk really that good? It was one of the first cards that I thought maybe I want to cut. because Donk 1 into a 4-drop Typho turn 2, maybe that'll happen from time to time, but it's where you get to the more complicated plays later on, like being able to use Gonk in conjunction with You're My Only Hope to get the extra discount, or to get you to that resupply carrier 1 turn earlier, after a ramp. There are certain sequences that, I think as you play this deck and you learn the lines, it's not necessarily Gonk turn 1 into a turn 2 play, though it certainly can be. But it's setting up those further down the line situations that put you in a position to win, particularly against existing decks like the Anakin we're talking about, that sort of thing. A lot of the times this deck just comes down to, I got Bo-Katan out early, shut you down, game over, right? And there's a reason there's 3 in here.
Mm-hmm. I hear you on the being a grindy deck, Alex. I mean, I wonder if this is faster or slower than like a typical Ray Data Vault. Probably in the same ballpark.
It's kind of the same category,
yeah,
right?
But the Gonk really is scary. You have a lot of really good 2-drops here with the range from Battlefield Marine, Amina, Yaddle. It's a really well-balanced deck. Going Gonk into Typho is really disgusting. I do kind of wonder how this, stacks up against Space Aggro. I think that Piets could be a little bit challenging. I know Wu mentioned that as well. Really fun deck. I'm probably going to put it together and take it for a spin, but a lot of ramp, lot of big
got a
units.
Surprising amount of space stuff too, like to handle a space aggro. I don't know.
If this deck's the progression of Ray, Piet was a horrible problem for Ray, right? I mean, out of Seattle, my 2 losses with Ray were to Piet, and it was brutal. Though you did see Tada beat Ray in the team event in the semifinal, right? So I'm not saying it's not doable, but it's definitely not a good matchup. The one of interest to me that I saw in here was Traitorous. I assume that's in there to defend against some of these space decks, particularly piloted up space decks. If you're going to ramp right away and you can Traitorous off something, that can bridge you to your point, Sharky, the answers.
Yeah.
Or a turn 2 Generous Blade, right? Like that's another card that this deck could struggle into.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm a little surprised to see no Fell the Dragon actually in the Vanquish instead, which I think is an interesting call. But it makes sense, I suppose, when there's cards that are, like a Cheer It or other really difficult to remove cards. Yeah, I think it's interesting though.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that one. That's actually a change that I made to my Han Blue, and I'm going to pick your brain on Han Blue. But my lessons learned out of Seattle, my losses with Han Blue were challenging space situations where they had like 4/6 ships, like that stupid new Zuckus ship, or the 4/6 do 2 damage ship.
Yeah.
There was a couple of them there that were they were out of fell range. They were above takedown range, which I wasn't playing anyway. So I've been looking at Vanquish main board, possibly Shatterpoint main board, because there's some of these. There seem to be more of these in between units. Typho, to your point, Cheer It, that sort of thing, that you need a more flexible removal card to get through.
Yeah. And I mean, you are running 3 Vanquishes here, like and 2 Rivals Fall, not to mention the Hyperspace Disasters in the side. You are insulated, especially post board. But I think maybe the assumption is like, hey, for those units that I need to use Fell on, I want to be doing unit-to-unit combo anyway, combat anyway. I want to be deploying Yoda to kill them. I want to be playing Luke to cross arena kill them, etc., etc. But yeah, I mean, really strong deck. I expect this to be one of, if not the most popular riser of this next week as we get into week 2 of PQs. Not sure if it's going to be the most popular deck, but I think it's going to be the deck that sees the highest rate in overall representation following this past week.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. On to our last deck of the night, and that's by the one that Alex suggested, Sly Data Vault. A little bit of an Italian PQ here. Sharky, I know you're really excited.
So excited.
No, I picked this one out because I've been talking to DJ Claire a little bit, and yeah, he's someone who's created some crazy decks, and this one I've taken it for a spin now, like 30-40 games this past couple days, and you can go. It's almost like a Vader pilot on the ground with spies. You just like get this critical mass of spies, and then throw a Crucible down, give them all an XP. And you get the wombo combo of playing the second Crucible and getting both triggers off in the same instance.
Oh, yeah.
That's the rare, maybe greedy line, but yeah, like the I Am the Senate. I think that's the one, the 5 create 5 spy event. It's actually really good in this deck. If you want a deck that plays that card effectively, it's actually pretty good. yeah, it's a lot of fun. You get to go wide. Choose sides is nuts because you have so
Yeah.
many little units you're generating. Yeah, curious to hear your all thoughts on it.
Sharky, let's start with you, bud.
I don't have thoughts. I think it's fine. It looks like a deck that's good. That is absolutely not my style, but like the combos that he just mentioned are fun. I won't be playing it. It looks like fun. There you go.
You snuck this one in, so maybe you didn't, or I just wasn't reading Jordan's little prep meeting thing. But I hadn't evaluated this one previously, but as I see it here, it does look like fun. You know, I'm not typically a weenies type player, but this one's a little bit of a different take on a weenies type deck. You know, we're not trying to do the double green card that buffs them all up. You know, we're just going for no unity. We're doing a strictly wide get you strategy. I do wonder, though, as I look at it, is, you know, this comes from Europe. You know, Yoda, as to the deck we just talked about, is becoming more popular in the U.S. Is it there? Because I feel like the Yoda deck would be a real problem with this, you know, for this between Typho and shutting the door with Bo-Katan. You know, I wonder how that would go.
Typho can be answered at least by Sly because she can swing in and clear it with the on attack, right? With the 3+2 damage. But I do think I'm just testing out like a rest to be able to temporarily put away some of these big sentinels or big drops. Yeah, I think Jordan, you said something you wanted to add?
Well, no, I think I'm probably higher on it than I'm definitely higher than what Sharky mentioned. And I'm a little higher on it than Kyle. I think it looks really fun. I think there's a lot of really interesting things you can do. I think there's probably a little bit too much setup for my taste in an average deck. But like, for instance, like outside of like the main Crucible thing that you mentioned with I Am the Senate and otherwise, you have Kino, who is getting bigger incidentally based on things. You have Rampart, who could help do that and help enable some of these things. All while that's happening, you have Partagast getting buffed. You have Jar Jar. You're able to play Hot Shot. You have some Sentinels, whether that's on flip with the Palpatine plot or the Royal Guard. I mean, I think a fine flip turn is probably Jar Jar and Palpatine. That sounds really fun to me, right? And I don't know. I think Thrawn in the sideboard is pretty interesting. I do wonder about Yoda because I think most of the Yoda in Europe is 28. I wonder if that's a difference from Data Vault here with a little bit more of the shielded Sentinels coming in, but I'll take it for a spin and I'll follow up on it. But I think this looks really fun to me.
Yeah, Partagast is one of my favorite cards in the set. I don't know if I'd play this over Watt Yellow. I actually really have been liking Watt a lot lately because you can mess with similar kind of combos here where like I Am the Senate and just spam officials. It's an interesting take on something similar to that.
Yeah, I guess it's almost like a just like a different flavor of the same kind of archetype when you're talking about either creation of tokens or being able to condense actions.
Yeah.
Yeah, this kind of deck gets to exist because Kira is being held out of the meta too.
I
feel like if I sat down across, if I was Kira and I sat down and saw this, I'd be like, "Oh my goodness, please!"
Yeah. Well, thankfully, we only have a few more weeks, few more months of Kira even being in the non-eternal conversation. But you know, I'm looking forward to seeing how like whether it's decks like this, decks like Phasma, ridiculous space aggro that we're not thinking of, something that's popping up. I think when you have this deep of a card pool, it's just possible, right? And obviously at least for me, I'll speak for myself, where like if Phasma won a 40-person PQ, I would be less enthused about it, but it was like a 96-person PQ. Like that's a strong field. Like there are great players in the UK, just like there are in across the world. But I'm excited to see like the little bit of flavor that comes out in these remaining, 3 months as we head towards rotation.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think Phasma hopefully the first of several of these like one-off decks that Yeah, I mean, shout out to Poem on Late Night Gaming on that YouTube channel there. He uses this off-meta series. I believe he's going to be interviewing Sealy for his Phasma deck. So
nice. That's
stay
cool
tuned.
to see.
Yeah.
I watched Sealy's video today, and you could just tell he was so excited, and then
it
brought him so much joy. And at the end of the day, like that's what this sort of thing is supposed to do, right? Like you're supposed to compete, have a good time. When we're sitting here podcasting with our buds, we're supposed to have fun. All those things are really important. I had fun with this little breakdown talking about limited and the first week of constructed data. Alex, thanks for hopping on with us. It's fun. We kind of randomly last week, we played a couple of limited games. I popped into the Discord. We just hung out for a bit and said, hey, we're both grinding towards limited. Why don't we just talk about it? So appreciate you taking the time. And I know having some valuable insights to the listeners that are different from the three of us schmucks is good.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. This is a blast, and I definitely have to get up to Colorado for either if there's another sector out there or PQ. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And we're considering we haven't figured out our travel schedule for sectors and regionals yet. We've been getting a lot of pressure from Loopy and the other Midwest people, whether it's Carlos or otherwise, to come out. Yeah. For us, Arizona is just so much closer that I'm probably more likely to do that one, but I like limited, so I'm excited to see. And I've been to sectors. I've been to 2 sectors and no regionals, so I would like to change that, so we'll see how it shapes up.
All of you have a free order of cheese curds with your name on it if you make it to Milwaukee.
So sounds that it's worth the trip.
Definitely. Yeah, I might have to use an excuse. My mom lives out there, so I'm originally, lived in Wisconsin, so there might be good reason for me to head out there anyway. As far as future collaboration goes, you mentioned Han Blue. I've been working on it too, so we should continue to talk about that. Maybe have a little deck discussion.
That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
And speaking of Han Blue and otherwise, got a lot coming on here in the channel. Like I mentioned, we have that video that I'll be working on, talking for some decks every week. I think I'm going to try to do it for the next couple of weeks. We'll see how it goes after that. Then we have midday matchup, the return of midday matchup on Friday, right?
Yeah. Out of town last week for work in Las Vegas. The week before was the holiday, right? So this week we're coming back. I mentioned earlier that I've been playing the Yoda deck as a progression from Ray. So I think I'm going to put that in paper and play it. And then Jillian did get excited about this Phasma deck. She likes her aggro. So I think we'll put together Phasma versus Yoda, and we'll see how that goes. It's gonna be a little sad though. I don't like playing without showcases. And I don't own a showcase for either of those.
Hey, I got both of them. So if you want to come down and borrow them, we'll make sure. I have my misprint Yoda, which is my prized possession. So that'll be great. And then a lot going on in the Blue Milk Gaming and late night stratosphere. A lot of expansion, like you mentioned, of the late night team. And I know you guys are really locking down on the content front over at Blue Milk.
Yeah, no, we just started Blue Milk Gaming, I think just under 2 months ago, with myself and 3 other players from Wisconsin. We're making YouTube videos. We have a Discord that's free for anyone to join, and we're focusing on playtesting because I found that a lot of Discord servers have these looking for game channels, but they're usually pretty dead. Not people are using them. So we're trying to make that a big part of the server because I'm a grinder. I jam a lot of games, and so I'd love to play with anyone in the community. So
yeah, and I can attest to that. Awesome. They're hanging out, jamming games in there. Pretty much every day I've seen it. So if you ever see that little voice icon, I think I can speak for Alex, Carlos, and the rest of the gang by saying, welcome in, hang out, pop in, say what's up, and ask some questions, play some games. And we try to have that sort of vibe as well. We have the closed Discord, which we've been toying with opening. We'll see how that goes in the maybe in 2026. We'll see if we can handle the administrative work. But yeah, a lot going on both at late night and at Blue Milk. Check them both out. We had the great limited stream that we mentioned. A lot. You could see Alex all up and down that event on stream. On our side, we have a lot of content coming your way as we get into the holiday season. This is really like the last hurrah of what we're gonna call it, SWU version 1, right? Like, I think we have 16 weeks of PQs in front of us, a lot of competition, a lot of different travels. I'll be heading on my mini world tour, hitting up the New Jersey PQ on the 20th, and then
world tour to
yeah,
New Jersey.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said, my mini world tour, and then I'll be in the great state of Missouri, going to Branson on January 3rd as I traverse back and forth from Colorado to Pennsylvania for the holidays. So wish me luck, and if you're there, say what's up. It's always great to have some fun because I'll be on my lonesome trying to make friends and stuff like that. All right, any final notes as we get out of here? Cool. Fun times all around. 1 PQ down, a bunch more to go. Until next time, I'm Jordan. For Alex, Sharky, and Kyle, stay tuned, stick with us, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.